Right, hello, I'm Mark Harrison. It's 8 o'clock and this is Henry's Blues House, and nice to be here again, though of course I'm not really there. I'm here in Oxfordshire, where I have been doing lockdown, and I'm just going to check that the thing is working, because you can't trust these things. It's a bit like the old days when you had to wait for a television to warm up. And so I'm waiting for this particular thing to warm up, see if it's there. And it doesn't appear to be at this present time. So let's have another look. And here we are. Right. Seems to be working. I hope it carries on working throughout what I'm going to do. I do all my own songs, and quite a lot of them are about blues. I'm not sure whether they're actually blues songs. Doesn't really matter, does it? They're songs, and the original blues people thought that they were doing songs. They didn't understand genres. That came much later. And so I'm going to do a set of songs on the theme of the blues world, the life lived by blues people back in Mississippi, and when all the original stuff was being made in the 20s and 30s. So I have some tunes about the way of life and about some actual people who existed and were artists as well. So I hope you enjoy that. Thanks to Jim Simpson for asking me to do this, and I came over and played at Bull's Head in December in what was emphatically the worst weather ever anywhere. So thanks again to the people who came, and we had a pretty nice night. It took me 2.5 hours to do half a mile into Birmingham and 3 hours to get home not far, but in the middle we had a nice time. So I hope everybody is okay, and as we carry on with this strange times that we're living in, and it occurs to me that one of the legacies of this is that perhaps after all this, I don't wish to make light of the serious, but I'm thinking in terms of doing selective social distancing, whereby you keep away from people not because you think you might catch something from them, but because they piss you off. Right, on to the songs. So the first song I'm going to do is called Big Mary's House, and Big Mary's House is about a juke joint that existed in the Mississippi Delta in the 20s, 30s, I think, run by a woman called Big Mary, who in fact wasn't big. And although all you blues people will know what a juke joint was, I like to explain things because lots of people that come to my shows don't know anything about blues, and so I don't assume knowledge. A juke joint was a sort of rough bar or shack that was put up on the corner of a plantation or edge of a small town, where people could go and drink and party at the weekend after what was a terrible week's work in the fields. And at these things they would get very drunk on the hooch that was made by the person who ran it, which sometimes was the wrong side of being poison. And sometimes they would shoot each other. Seems a long time since I did an actual gig now, but I can tell you me and the band have done quite a few gigs where we've been pretty keen on people shooting each other. Hasn't happened yet, but we still live in hope. So Big Mary's House. I wanna go Mary's house, yeah. Big Mary, she's got her little juke out in the country where she makes her brew. Those people coming from miles around, when they see that blue smoke coming out, and I wanna go to Big Mary's house. I wanna go to Big Mary's house, yeah. Big Mary's house all night long. Big Mary's house all night long. She's got 5 little kids. She's trying to get a little money in. I don't know why Big Mary's what she's called, because Big Mary, she ain't big at all. And I wanna go to Big Mary's house. I wanna go to Big Mary's house, yeah. All night long, Big Mary's house. All night long, Big Mary's house. All night long, Big Mary's house. All night long. So, the next song I'm going to do, also sticking with, I guess, the way of life or the culture at the time when all this blues music was being invented. Lots of it came from even older music, even older folk songs, mixtures of those and spirituals and whatever names one wants to give to these things. There were characters that make appearances in these songs, and one is High John, and High John, sometimes John the Conqueror, John the Conquerute, was a fictional mythological character that appeared in a lot of stories in what would now be called Negro folklore, and it was a kind of spirit character, a will-o'-the-wisp, who could be rude to the master and then disappear at will. So it was a very appealing figure for people who had such awful lives with no power at all, who couldn't speak back to the master, but High John could. And I think it remains an appealing idea that you could go up to someone you don't like and tell them to piss off and then disappear. Its guitar, by the way, was made in 1934. It's a National Trojan, and for those of you who are interested in, it's in open C, which is why I have to keep checking the bottom string. So here's the song, High John. station, hazardous occupation, house without foundation. What am I gonna do? Then I had a revelation, gave me the inclination to improve my situation. So here's what I'm gonna do. Gonna make like high John, 1 minute in chains, next minute I'm gone. Gonna make like high John, the conqueror. Well, you won't fool me, but I might fool you. Got low expectation of mass disintegration. It's a deadly combination. What am I gonna do? Then I took some inspiration. Wasn't looking for salvation, just a little compensation. So here's what I'm gonna do. Gonna make like high John, 1 minute in chains, next minute I'm gone. Gonna make like high John, the conqueror. Well, you won't fool me, but I might fool you. Fight that exploitation, get some syncopation. Well, that's what I'm gonna do. And it's goodbye degradation, farewell humiliation, no more desperation. Cause here's what I'm gonna do. Gonna make like high John, 1 minute in chains, next minute I'm gone. Gonna make like high John, the conqueror. Well, you won't fool me, but I might fool you. Gonna make like high John, 1 minute in chains, next minute I'm gone. Gonna make like high John, the conqueror. Well, you won't fool me, but I might fool you. Okay, I'm going to move on to another guitar and play some slide, and this song will be called Honey Boy, and it's about, well, taken from a book by David Honeyboy Edwards, who some of you may know, some of you may have seen, who was the oldest surviving original Mississippi Delta blues artist until he stopped surviving a few years ago. He was about 96 at the time, and right up until his death he was still doing gigs at which he played some, and also he told stories from his book, and his book is here. It's called The World Don't Owe Me Nothing. It's the best book ever written about anything, but especially about blues music. It's not really about music, it's about his life. It's an oral history. He spoke it and some people wrote it down, and I got a couple of songs from reading it, and I'm just going to read a little bit of it that relates to this song I'm going to do now, which is called Honey Boy. He says the following. In the South they had that vagrancy law, that hog law. I got pulled up for that a number of times. That means better have a job or don't be seen on the streets. The police pick you up in the street during the day when everybody's working. What are you doing walking around here? Get in the car. They carry you into jail and they give you 4 or 5 days, and that time was spent out in the fields working the cotton. Don't you know so-and-so out there? His cotton growed up with grass and he can't get nobody to work in. You could be out there working. But he didn't want to give nobody but $1 a day, and nobody wanted to work all day in the hot sun for $1. The way to get by all that, stay in the house all day long. I was like a groundhog. Come 6 o'clock, I'd take a bath, come out like I'd been in the field. They don't know whether you've been in the field or not then. That's the way I done. His book, his life, describes all kinds of brutality, I guess, a very, very difficult way of life for black people in that area at that time. And there's a lot of fun in it too. Of course, it's wrong to think that these people were all miserable all the time. They weren't at all. And people whose backs are against the wall, they often find ways of having fun and having a nice time despite the difficulties of their circumstances. Honeyboy had a mostly okay time. He had some terrible jobs, like on the levees. In the levee camps, life was pretty brutal. And most of the time he seems to have wandered around kind of hoboing and getting himself with various women and staying with them and then moving on. Did a lot of playing on street corners and a lot of avoiding work in the fields, which you can't really blame him for. So the musician life was a way of keeping away from all that. So this song contains some references to all of these things from his life, and it's called Honey Boy. Can't remember the year, I was maybe 14 when I headed on out, Well, I picked up some tunes, I picked up my guitar, when I moved around, kept on going from the levees to the country fries, moving around with those good old friends of mine. I got stories to tell of the trains and the tracks, of a man going out, a man not coming back, of a long lonesome road, of a big laughing face, of a no justice world in a tumble down place. Well, I met me someone and I moved right in, was okay for a while. Then she cussed me and cut me and give me a hard time, so I moved down the line. Kept on going from the cities to the little towns, playing on corners when people came around. I got stories to tell of the trains and the tracks, of a man going out, a man not coming back, of a long lonesome road, of a big laughing face, of a no justice world in a tumble down place. everybody was having hard times. I got stories to tell of the trains and the tracks, of a man going out, a man not coming back, of a long lonesome road, of a big laughing face, of a no justice world in a tumble down place. I got stories to tell of the trains and the tracks, of a man going out, man not coming back, of a long lonesome road, of a big laughing face, of a no justice world in a tumble down place. Okay, that was Honey Boy. I shall just mention that I have albums, and if you'd like to get an album of mine, they're on my website, which is www.markharrisonrootsmusic.com. I've got 6 albums, 5 studio, 1 live, and I'm doing songs from, I think, all of them this evening, and 1 or 2 that aren't on any. That one was from the Crooked Smile album. Big Mary's House was from the World Outside album. Hi John was from the latest Panoramic View. And this next one, called Hard Work, is from the first album, which was called Watching the Parade. And of course, at this time, the population of Mississippi was theoretically free. They weren't slaves, but they replaced slavery with something broadly similar called sharecropping, whereby they worked ferociously hard on a plot of land, and they had to buy all of their materials and their groceries from the store on the plantation, and then what it had cost them was deducted from what they were given for their cotton, meaning that they often ended up with little or nothing. So this song's called Hard Work, and it's about hard work for anyone. At the minute there's talk about greater recognition for people with tough jobs rather than cushy ones. It would be nice to think that that would gather some momentum. Hard work, hard work, never kill no one, that's what they say, but it's killing someone somewhere every day. Now some people doing hard work, but they're only getting by. Some people doing nothing, but they're doing fine. Hard work, it's a crying shame, doing all that hard work, and it doesn't pay. So tired, I want to lay down on the floor. Been doing all that hard work, I don't want to do it anymore. Hard work, it's a killing me, and I heard somebody saying some people, they get lucky. I don't know how it goes that way, but the rest, they gotta do it. Keep on doing it every day. Hard work. It's a crying shame, doing all that hard work, and it doesn't pay. Well, I wish that I could stop now. Wish I could go home, but it's really not an option. Gotta keep on pushing that stone. Hard work, it's killing me. I heard somebody saying that we all are free. Hard work, hard work, never kill no one, that's what they say. But it's killing someone somewhere every day. Right. Okay. Next song is Long Gone Miles, which I did a little bit of in the trailer earlier on today for the show tonight. Long Gone Miles was a man and his surname was Miles. His nickname was Long Gone, and it was a pretty good nickname. Blues people did very, very good nicknames. Unlike us, we would have called him Milesy or something equally pedestrian, but in the blues world he got a whole sentence for a nickname. And Long Gone Miles was the best friend, I guess, confidant, if that's the right word, of the great Lightning Hopkins. And he used to drive him around and buy his booze for him. And Long Gone Miles had a reputation for saying almost nothing and scaring people. Don't know if he really was scary, but he looked it. And so nobody wanted to mess with him. And much less did they want to mess with Lightning Hopkins, who more or less invented being cool in ways that have never been surpassed since, or indeed equalled. There's a picture of the two of them sitting in the back of Lightning's Cadillac in a book I have, and they're grinning from ear to ear and swigging booze out of a brown paper bag. They look like two happiest people who've ever lived. And Long Gone Miles used to drive Lightning to some of his better gigs, where Lightning's got booked by white folk later in his career at things like the Carnegie Hall. And like a lot of the rediscovered blues artists, they expected him to be what they had in their heads as an idealised picture of a blues artist who was some bloke from the fields. But Lightning Hopkins wore a zoot suit and a hat and shades, and was the very opposite of a hick from the fields. But if the money was good, he'd do the gig, so Long Gone Miles would drive him there in the Cadillac, and he would get changed into dungarees, do the gig, get back in the zoot suit, and they would rush off to the liquor store. Here's the song Long Gone Miles, and it's about their friendship, I guess, and their story. One fine day, country boy knocking at my door, came right in and slept right on the floor. Never said a word, seen but not heard. Now look at long gone miles, sitting in the back of a Cadillac. Look at long gone miles, passing the bottle here and back. Look at long gone miles. Oh yeah. Left behind that country shack, took off on the road. A couple thousand places that we go, getting a better deal than a brand new automobile. Now look at long gone miles, sitting in the back of a Cadillac. Look at long gone miles, passing the bottle here and back. Look at long gone miles. Oh yeah. Now if you want to get to me, you gotta go through him, and he's heard every tale that you could spin. He doesn't take no shit, not even one little bit. Oh, look at long gone miles, sitting in the back of a Cadillac. Look at long gone miles, passing the bottle here and back. Look at long gone miles. Oh yeah. Well, now we're right outside the liquor store, lounging in our car, suits and shades, fan hats and looking sharp. Now look at this photo here, we're grinning from ear to ear. That's me and long gone miles, sitting in the back of a Cadillac. Look at long gone miles, passing the bottle here and back. Look at long gone miles. Oh yeah. That's that one. In these difficult times, there is a link if you feel like buying a ticket for this event. There's a PayPal link hovering about somewhere, and anyone who feels like paying for a ticket, thank you very much for doing that. Next song is also based on, but not about, one of the original blues artists, Son House. And Son House, one of the great inventors of all the music, as you will all know, of course. He was rediscovered, and by the time they rediscovered him, unfortunately, he was permanently pissed, and that made him a little bit difficult to deal with. He could still play and sing perfectly well in his raw and emotional way, but he was off his face, and you couldn't get any sense out of him. So it was an interesting commercial decision to make a live album on Son House, which they did. Didn't get released at the time. I have it on CD, and it begins with 15 minutes of absolute drivel. And what he's heroically trying to do is explain what everything is about. That life is all about blues, blues is all about life, it's all about men and women, heartbreak, treachery. That's what life is all about. What I suppose we would now call relationships, which is a word I don't like. It's a pretentious long word. Why is it so long? I don't know why it's so long. And you won't find that word in the blues lexicon. In fact, they didn't talk about relationships. I don't think they had very simple ways of dealing with things if their relationship went wrong, which was that they either buggered off or firearms came into play. What I think Son House was trying to say, I've put in the song, and it's called What Son House Said. This song, by the way, catapulted to great fame on national radio when it was on Radio 2's Pick of the Week show. As presented by Anneka Rice, it came immediately after ABBA and before Miley Cyrus. I think that's a playlist the average blues artist has not been on. Anyway, this song then is about relationships. It's my only song about relationships, and it contains everything I can think about as to why they might go wrong. What you think's the best of you is actually your worst. So many things in this life that ought to be reversed. What you think's a blessing is actually a curse. So many lessons to be learned, but which ones to learn first? I'm thinking about what Son House said. Blues is love turned on its head. I'm not sure what I get from you, but it sure ain't the blues. I'm not sure what I get from you, but it sure ain't the blues. You see something in me that simply isn't there. It's not your fault you see it. It's not my fault it isn't there. Might become a stranger of the troublous kind. It might not work out, but never mind. I'm thinking about what Son House said. Blues is love turned on its head. I'm not sure what I get from you, but it sure ain't the blues. I'm not sure what I get from you, but it sure ain't the blues. I'm thinking about what Son House said. Blues is love turned on its head. I'm not sure what I get from you, but it sure ain't the blues. I'm not sure what I get from you, but it sure ain't the blues. No, it sure ain't the blues. No, it sure ain't the blues. Okay, and the next one is a sort of gospel song, back really at the sort of life that people had in that place at that time. And gospel music was invented really by people who were waiting for the next life because this life was so gruesome, and they were hoping that the next life would be better and that they would all be together in that next life. I guess it's the nearest thing I have to a kind of song, a religious song. Because the idea of seeing again your nearest and dearest in the next life remains an appealing one, and it's understandable why it would, even if you don't have a religion as such. And I come from Coventry. I grew up in Coventry, and we didn't really have religion in the family. Not much anyway, not that anyone was cynical about it or anything like that, just didn't do it. Didn't know much about it, and we used to go to church for the regulation things, weddings, funerals, and the other one, never remember what the other one is, christenings, oh yes. And when the hymns started playing, my family, there were tons of them in those days, used to shuffle up out of the pew and stand there and start going, because they didn't know the words. So I grew up thinking that all hymns were instrumentals. This song has a sing-along chorus. I wonder if there's ever been such a thing as a sing-along chorus in an online concert. I shudder to think how anyone would have tried to organise that. So if you cop hold of the chorus here, do feel free to join in, and I won't know. There's a twisted wreck on the main highway. Somebody left it there, got up and walked away. And there's an empty shack on a barren field. Somebody lived there once, couldn't grow enough for a meal. And we can tell each other we're gonna meet on the other side. Meet on the other side. Meet on the other side. Sooner or later we're gonna meet on the other side. Meet on the other side. Meet on the other side. There's a half-built house and the roof ain't there. Somebody just gave up, doesn't mean they didn't care. And my people and me, we got history. We're all part of some ragged-ass family. And we can tell each other we're gonna meet on the other side. Meet on the other side. Meet on the other side. Sooner or later we're gonna meet on the other side. Meet on the other side. Meet on the other side. Now, oh, my brother, and my folks who are gone, and my full-time love, oh, we just carrying on. We're a marching band, we're going down the road, come on to the river, then on and on we go. And we can tell each other we're gonna meet on the other side. Meet on the other side. Meet on the other side. Sooner or later we're gonna meet on the other side. Meet on the other side. Meet on the other side. We can tell each other we're gonna meet on the other side. Meet on the other side. Meet on the other side. Sooner or later we're gonna meet on the other side. decided meet on the other side. Okay. I wonder if anybody sang along. Next song is a sort of blues way of living or looking at the world, I guess, called Ragged. And it's about having a sort of, what you might call blues sensibility if you happen to be doing a PhD in it at the University of Portakabin somewhere. Follows me all over town. I'm ragged in the morning, ragged when the sun goes down. Well, I'm tired of trouble, had my share, loose and straight everywhere. I was ragged in that infant's gown. That's how I'll be till that hole in the ground. I'm ragged in the morning, ragged when the sun goes down. It's hard to keep track, as you move along, you can't turn back. I'm raggedy, sitting here looking round. I'm ragged and I can't get off the ground. I'm ragged in the morning, ragged when the sun goes down. Really ain't half full. I'm raggedy, search the lost and found. You might find me down there in the pound. I'm ragged in the morning, ragged when the sun goes down. I'm ragged in the morning, ragged when the sun goes down. Said I'm ragged in the morning, ragged when the sun goes down. Okay, I'm just going to do a small number more, and the next song I've not done live before. Also contains some of the most challenging guitar playing I have yet created, so if it goes wrong, it goes wrong. One thing that people wonder about in blues world, looking back at the history of it, is the absence of protest. People wonder, especially with a hindsight and a revisionist view of things. These people seem to have not protested. Why were they not protesting? Well, the simple answer to that is that it would get them killed. These are people who lived in constant danger at any given moment. They could be wiped out, attacked at the very least, or possibly killed. And that's why they didn't protest. But of course, it didn't mean that they didn't notice what was going on around them or what was happening to them. But you just try not to think about it, and you kind of look at each other, don't you, in these circumstances where people know, but there's nothing they can do. So that's what this song is about. It's called Poor Show. There's some trouble going on, but nobody says a word. There are things that can't be seen, and thoughts that can't be heard. Nobody looks you in the eye, they got something on their mind. Everybody's trying to keep this poor show on the road. We're all trying to keep this poor show on the road. At the back end of the store, on the corner of the street, there are whisperings and looks and shuffling of feet. When trouble's all you find, it's hard to be kind. Everybody's trying to keep this poor show on the road. We're all trying to keep this poor show on the road. People say we'll do what we can. Neighbors always try to lend a hand. Just because the hands are tied doesn't mean the heart is died. We all live on common ground. Together we are bound. Of the trouble coming near, it can turn up at your house completely unannounced. But we are not alone in this place that we call home. Everybody's trying to keep this poor show on the road. We're all trying to keep this poor show on the road. We're all trying to keep this poor show on the road. Okay, now I have a theory that what happened in the 40s was that when mechanized cotton picking was invented and people were uprooted from doing the job by hand, and they all had to go up north. and they all went up to the industrial cities of Chicago and Detroit, and worked in factories and plants and meat packing and stuff like that. And for the first time they were all together in large numbers in an urban setting, whereas they were dispersed in small communities down in Mississippi where white folk could control them. But when they were in bigger numbers in the cities, they perhaps started to feel confidence and strength in numbers. And I think that may have led, at least indirectly, to the civil rights movement. This song contains a reference to the chicken sandwich train, which is the name of my live album. And basically they got the train up to Chicago, Detroit, and because they're very poor, their friends and relatives would give them something to eat on the train. They give them chicken sandwiches, and so for some people the train became known as the chicken sandwich train. So now that I've explained that, you'll know what that means should it ever come up in conversation with anyone else. So this is about that move from the south to the cities, and how I think people felt, may have felt, when that was going on. It's called Change Is Coming Here. Packing up and getting out, and there's a buzzing at the storefront. There's some rumors going round. Let me tell you people, there's some changes coming here. Oh, they're heading all the way up on that chicken sandwich train. Taking all those hits upside my head, and I'm tired of all the effort, and I'm hardly getting fed. Let me tell you people, there's some changes coming here. There's been some evil doings, it's been going on too long. Everybody's got a story about what's been going on. Let me tell you people, there's some changes coming here. Well, I can't go on no longer, getting treated like a dog, and a grunt's the only sound you're going to get out of a hog. Let me tell you people, there's some changes coming here. So don't meet me at the bottom, ain't gonna take it lying down. Right, I'm going to do just one last one now. So thank you very much for watching. If you've been watching, I hope you've enjoyed it. If you feel like buying something or paying for a ticket, please do that. That'd be much appreciated. And when we're back out, I hope I can come back and play over in Birmingham. That's something that Jim puts on. And keep an eye on my website, which is a very, very good website, done by someone else, obviously. I'm on Facebook. You can find Mark Harrison on Facebook. I've got a musician page, but I'm doing also some online concerts myself on my own personal page. So if you feel like friending me on there, please do so. Who thought we'd live to see the word friend become a verb? Anyway, if you'd like to friend me, that would be good too. And keep an eye out for future events. So I'm going to do this last song now. It's called Shake the House. We're back where we started at the beginning, which was about juke joints. And this is in a juke joint. I read somehow that they sometimes used to dance so vigorously in these rather fragile structures that they would sometimes crash straight through the floor. And apparently they carried on dancing on the ground below. Seems like a decent metaphor for life, or way to proceed anyway. So thank you again, and this is Shake the House, and then there'll be a sort of ugly bit at the end where I make my way to switch the thing off, and then it won't switch off and stuff like that. So here's Shake the House. Spend your time in dives, live a flea bit life, sleep make my way over to end the proceedings. Hope you've enjoyed it.